Get out the car, boy. Let's see what drugs you're hiding. Officer Bradley Thompson yanks open the door of a pristine 1967 Mustang. A black man emerges slowly, hands visible, wearing a crisp black suit and tie. Distinguished, respectful, everything Thompson despises. Thompson snatches the man's wallet, dumping its contents onto the wet pavement. Credit cards, family photos, and cash scatter across dirty asphalt. On your knees. The man hesitates for just a moment. Thompson's hand moves to his taser. I said on your knees, boy. The black man slowly kneels on the cold, wet street. His expensive suit soaks up puddle water as dozens of rush-hour drivers stop to stare. Phone cameras emerge from car windows like hungry eyes. Thompson towers over the kneeling figure, chest puffed with authority. The man's head stays down, but his back remains straight, unbroken. Have you ever watched True Dignity face raw hatred? What happens next will haunt you forever. 6 hours earlier, General Jonathan Hayes folded the American flag that draped his father's coffin. The fabric felt heavy in his weathered hands, each crease a reminder of 30 years serving his country. The cemetery was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic on Interstate 95. Your father would be proud, sir. Sergeant Major Rodriguez placed a gentle hand on Hayes's shoulder. 43 years of service between you both. Hayes nodded, tucking the flag under his arm. At 52, his graying temples showed the weight of command, but his posture remained military straight. 3 decades of leading soldiers had taught him that dignity wasn't about rank. It was about character. He always said this car was his pride and joy. Hayes ran his fingers along the hood of his father's restored 1967 Mustang. The cherry red paint gleamed despite the overcast sky. Spent every weekend working on her in the garage. The funeral reception had ended an hour ago. Hayes needed time alone before flying back to the Pentagon tomorrow. A quiet drive through his old neighborhood seemed perfect. He'd grown up just 3 blocks from here, back when Richmond's Church Hill was still rough around the edges. Meanwhile, across town, Officer Bradley Thompson slammed his locker shut at the 3rd Precinct. His supervisor's words still burned in his ears. 14 complaints this year, Thompson. Clean up your act or find another job. Thompson's jaw clenched as he adjusted his duty belt. 8 years on the force, and what did he have to show for it? Still walking a beat while college boys with fancy degrees got promoted over him. The mirror reflected a man whose bitterness had carved deep lines around his eyes. Ready for another shift, Officer Maria Santos appeared beside him, adjusting her body camera. At 26, she still believed police work could make a difference. Yeah, whatever. Thompson's voice carried the edge of a man who felt the world owed him something. Probably spend all day dealing with the usual suspects. Santos frowned, but said nothing. She'd heard Thompson's code words before. They made her stomach turn. The intersection of Broad and 25th Street buzzed with afternoon traffic. Coffee shops and bookstores lined the historic district, their windows glowing warm against the gray October sky. A monument to civil rights leaders stood in the small park, bronze figures frozen in eternal protest. Hayes drove slowly, memories flooding back. That corner used to be Mr. Johnson's barber shop, where old men argued politics over checkers. The church where his mother sang in the choir every Sunday. The library where he'd studied for his West Point entrance exams. His phone buzzed with a text from his Pentagon aide. Tomorrow's briefing moved to 0800. The defense secretary wants to discuss the new diversity initiative. Hayes smiled slightly. His father would have loved seeing how far things had come. Not far enough, but progress was progress. The radio in Thompson's patrol car crackled with routine calls, noise complaints, fender benders, the mundane reality of police work that never matched the adrenaline he craved. He needed something to prove he was still relevant. Santos noticed his restless energy. Brad, maybe we should grab coffee. You seem I'm fine. Thompson's knuckles widened on the steering wheel. His marriage was falling apart. His kids barely talked to him. The job was all he had left, and even that felt like it was slipping away. Hayes pulled over to buy flowers for his father's grave. The elderly Korean woman at the flower shop smiled when she recognized him. Little Johnny Hayes, I remember when you were this tall. She held her hand at waist height. Your daddy talked about you every day, so proud of his general. Hayes's chest tightened. His father had never lived to see his promotion to general. Cancer had taken him just as Hayes received his first star. He knew, the woman continued, wrapping white roses in brown paper. He always knew you'd do something special. The flowers filled Hayes's car with their sweet scent as he drove toward the cemetery. He'd make one more stop, then head home to pack for tomorrow's flight. Thompson spotted the Mustang at a red light. Something about it irritated him immediately. Too nice, too clean. Nobody from this neighborhood could afford a car like that legitimately. He'd seen this pattern before. Drug dealers flashing their wealth while honest cops struggled to pay their bills. The light turned green. Hayes accelerated gently, careful not to speed. Years of military discipline had taught him to follow rules, even when no one was watching. Thompson hid his lights and pulled behind the Mustang. Finally, something interesting to break up this boring shift. Neither man knew their lives were about to change forever. The blue and red lights flash in Hayes's rear view mirror like angry fireflies. He signals carefully and pulls into the parking lot of Miller's hardware store, the same place his father bought tools for weekend projects. The irony isn't lost on him. Thompson approaches with the swagger of a man who believes his badge makes him untouchable. His boots crunch on gravel as Hayes rolls down his window, hands visible on the steering wheel, exactly as military protocol demands. License and registration. Thompson's voice carries the tone of someone already convinced of guilt. He towers over the car door, using his height as intimidation. Of course, officer. Hayes reaches slowly toward the glove compartment. The registration is right here with my insurance paperwork. Thompson snatches the documents before Hayes can hand them over properly. The military ID card is clearly visible beneath the registration, but Thompson's eyes skip right over it. He's not looking for evidence of innocence. Jonathan Hayes. Thompson pronounces the name like it tastes bitter. What's a guy from Washington doing in our neighborhood? You lost, sir. I grew up 3 blocks from here on Marshall Street. I'm attending my father's funeral. Hayes keeps his voice respectful despite the officer's obvious hostility. Your father. Thompson smirks. Let me guess, another drug dealer who got himself shot. The words hit like a physical blow, but Hayes doesn't flinch. His father had been a factory worker for 43 years, never missed a day, never broke a law. But explaining that to this man would be like teaching calculus to a brick wall. No sir, my father died of cancer. He worked at the Reynolds plant for 4 decades. Thompson's radio squawks and backup arrives without being called. Officer Maria Santos emerges from her patrol car immediately sensing the tension thick as summer humidity. Her training tells her something's wrong with this stop. Everything okay here, Brad? Santos approaches cautiously, noting Hayes's respectful posture and expensive suit. Just checking out our friend here. Thompson's chest puffs with false authority. Suspicious vehicle in a high-crime area. You know how it is. Hayes knows this intersection well. It's hardly high crime anymore. The coffee shops and bookstores have transformed the area over the past decade, but arguing with Thompson would only escalate the situation. A small crowd begins gathering outside Miller's hardware. Mrs. Patterson, who used to give Hayes cookies after school, peers through the window. She recognizes him instantly, but can't understand why he's being treated like a criminal. Sir, could you step out of the vehicle? Thompson's request sounds more like a command. I need to conduct a routine inspection. Hayes complies smoothly, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. At 6 feet tall with broad shoulders, he could easily intimidate most people. But 30 years of military service has taught him when to fight and when to endure. Hands on the hood. Spread your feet. The metal is cold against Hayes's palms. His father's funeral suit, the good navy blue one he saves for special occasions, presses against the Mustang's pristine paint. Around them, traffic slows as drivers crane their necks to watch. Thompson begins his search with unnecessary roughness, patting down Hayes like he's a dangerous criminal. His hands linger longer than required, testing for any sign of resistance or complaint. What's this? Thompson pulls out Hayes's wallet, flipping it open with exaggerated suspicion. Credit cards spill onto the ground. American Express Black Visa signature cards that speak of financial stability Thompson can only dream of. Those are my credit cards, officer. Drug money pays well these days. Thompson's voice carries loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. He's performing now, putting on a show of authority for anyone watching. Santos shifts uncomfortably. Her police academy training covered de-escalation techniques, but Thompson seems determined to escalate everything. She notices the military bearing in Hayes's posture. The way he stands at attention even while being searched. "Brad, maybe we should. I'm handling this, Santos." Thompson cuts her off without looking away from Hayes. "Why don't you go direct traffic or something useful?" Hayes watches Thompson examine each item from his wallet with theatrical suspicion. Photos of his late wife in her nurse's uniform, his Pentagon parking pass, a business card from the funeral home, normal items from a normal life, but Thompson treats each one like evidence of wrongdoing. "Lots of cash here." Thompson fans out the bills, maybe $300 Hayes withdrew for funeral expenses. "Where do you get this money?" "I withdrew it from my bank account for funeral expenses, sir." "Your bank account?" Thompson laughs, but there's no humor in it. "Right. What bank lets people like you have accounts with this kind of money?" The insult hangs in the air like smoke. Hayes feels his jaw tighten, but his expression remains neutral. He's faced down enemy fire in Afghanistan. He won't be broken by one racist cop in his hometown. Pastor Williams from Mount Olive Baptist Church approaches slowly, recognizing Hayes from the funeral that morning. "Officer, this young man just buried his father. Perhaps back off, preacher." Thompson spins around, hand moving toward his weapon. "This is police business. Keep walking or you'll be next." The pastor raises his hands and steps back, but he doesn't leave. Neither do the growing number of witnesses. Phone cameras emerge from pockets like digital eyes documenting every moment. Thompson returns to Hayes, his aggression ramping up with each passing minute. The presence of witnesses should calm him down, but instead it feeds his need to assert dominance. "Turn around. Face the car." Hayes complies, placing his hands back on the hood. Thompson kicks his feet wider apart, forcing him into a more humiliating position. The crowd murmurs disapprovingly, but no one dares intervene directly. "Are you carrying any weapons? Drugs? Anything that's going to poke me or hurt me?" "No, sir. Nothing like that." Thompson's search becomes more invasive, more personal. He empties Hayes's pockets completely, laying each item on the Mustang's hood like evidence at a crime scene. Car keys, a tissue, breath mints, the mundane contents of an ordinary man's pockets. "What's this?" Thompson holds up a small medal, the Purple Heart Hayes carries in memory of the day he took shrapnel in Kandahar. "It's a military decoration, sir." "Stolen, probably." Thompson tosses it carelessly onto the pile. "You military types think you're better than everyone else." Santos can't stay silent anymore. "Brad, his driver's license shows a military ID number." "Maybe we should, Santos. I said I'm handling this." Thompson's voice cracks like a whip. His authority is being questioned, and that threatens the very foundation of his identity. Hayes watches his Purple Heart roll across the car's hood, coming to rest against the windshield. That medal represents the worst day of his life, watching 3 of his soldiers die while he lay bleeding in Afghan sand. Thompson has no idea what he's handling so carelessly. "Sir." Hayes's voice remains steady. "I've been completely cooperative. What exactly am I being charged with?" Thompson spins around, his face flushed with anger. "You're being charged with whatever I say you're being charged with. And right now, that includes resisting arrest." "Officer, I haven't resisted anything. I followed every instruction. Are you calling me a liar?" Thompson steps closer, invading Hayes's personal space. His breath smells like coffee and cigarettes. "Because where I come from, calling a police officer a liar is a serious offense." The crowd grows larger. Mrs. Patterson has called her son who runs the barber shop next door. He emerges with 3 customers, all watching the drama unfold. Everyone can see this isn't a normal traffic stop. Thompson's radio crackles with routine police chatter, but he ignores it. He's found his excitement for the day, and he's not letting go easily. "I think it's time for a more thorough search of this vehicle." Thompson jingles Hayes's keys like a trophy. "Never know what we might find hidden in a car this expensive." Hayes's shoulders sag slightly. He knows where this is heading, and he knows there's nothing he can do to stop it. All his years of service, all his rank and decorations mean nothing to this man who sees only skin color and an opportunity to assert power. Santos pulls Thompson aside, lowering her voice. "Brad, This doesn't feel right. The guy's been totally compliant. Maybe we should just write him a warning. And what? Let him go so he can laugh about making fools of us. Thompson's paranoia reveals itself. No way. This one's dirty. I can smell it. As Thompson walks toward the Mustang with Hayes's keys, a terrible realization settles over the crowd. They're about to witness something that will change everyone involved. The afternoon sun breaks through the clouds for just a moment, casting long shadows across the parking lot. Hayes closes his eyes and thinks of his father's funeral that morning. The honor guard, the flag ceremony, the dignity of a life well lived. That dignity is about to be tested in ways he never imagined. Thompson opens the Mustang's driver door with theatrical authority, keys jangling like wind chimes in his grip. The leather interior gleams under the afternoon sun, immaculate, pristine, everything Thompson believes people like Hayes don't deserve. I'm conducting a lawful search based on probable cause, Thompson announces loudly for the growing crowd. His definition of probable cause wouldn't hold up in any courtroom, but he's banking on intimidation over legality. Hayes remains motionless against the car hood, hands flat against the warm metal. Officer, I don't consent to this search. What specific probable cause do you have? Your attitude is probable cause enough for me, boy. The word boy drips with centuries of hatred. Several witnesses gasp audibly, phones capturing every toxic syllable. Santos approaches cautiously. Brad, we need documented probable cause for Santos. Thompson's voice explodes across the parking lot. Are you questioning my judgment? Because if you can't handle real police work, maybe you should go back to writing parking tickets. The young officer steps back, her face flushing with embarrassment. She's caught between doing what's right and preserving her career. In the end, self-preservation wins, and Hayes pays the price for her silence. Thompson begins rifling through the glove compartment, tossing papers onto the ground like confetti. Insurance documents, vehicle registration, a funeral program with Hayes's father's photo on the cover. Everything scatters in the breeze. Look at this fancy paperwork. Thompson holds up the funeral program, squinting at the photo of Hayes's father in his army uniform. Even got a fake military picture. You people will try anything. Hayes's hands ball into fists against the car hood. His father served 2 tours in Vietnam, earned a Bronze Star, came home to work in a factory for 43 years. Calling that service fake crosses every line of decency. Sir, that's my father's actual military service record. He served in Vietnam. Shut up. Thompson slams the glove compartment shut. I didn't give you permission to speak. You'll talk when I tell you to talk. Mrs. Patterson from the hardware store can't contain herself anymore. Officer, this young man is Jonathan Hayes. His father was a war hero. This is completely ma'am. Step back or you're going to jail, too. Thompson's hand moves to his handcuffs, the metal catching sunlight like a warning. I won't tell you again. The elderly woman retreats, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. She's known Hayes since he was 7 years old. Watched him grow from a skinny kid into a decorated soldier. Seeing him humiliated like this breaks her heart. Thompson moves to the trunk, popping it open with aggressive enthusiasm. Inside, he finds the neatly folded American flag from the funeral still in its presentation case. He lifts it out carelessly, and the case falls to the asphalt with a sharp crack. Oops, Thompson's smile could cut glass. Sorry about your little flag there. The flag unfolds partially, its red, white, and blue fabric touching the dirty ground. For Hayes, it's like watching his father die all over again. That flag covered his father's coffin just hours ago. Blessed by military chaplain, honored by a grateful nation. Hayes's breathing becomes measured, deliberate. He's using combat breathing techniques learned in officer candidate school. The same methods that kept him alive during firefights in Afghanistan. But this enemy is different. This enemy wears a badge. You know what I think. Thompson kicks the flag case aside, its broken pieces scraping across concrete. I think you stole this car from some rich white family. Probably killed them for it, too. The accusation hangs in the air like poison gas. Several witnesses pull out phones live streaming the encounter to social media. # police brutality and # Richmond starts trending within minutes. Santos tries one more time. Brad, his registration matches his license. The car is legally his. Maybe you should remember who's senior here. Thompson whirls around, spittle flying from his lips. I've been doing this job since you were in high school. Don't you dare tell me how to handle suspects. He returns to tormenting Hayes, his cruelty escalating with each passing minute. The presence of witnesses should calm him, but instead it feeds his need to prove his authority. He's performing toxic masculinity for an audience that's growing more disgusted by the second. Turn around. Face me. Hayes complies, his military bearing intact. Despite the humiliation, even standing with his hands on a car hood, being treated like a common criminal, he maintains the dignity of a soldier. Thompson steps closer, invading Hayes's personal space. I smell marijuana on you. Strong smell. That gives me the right to search everything. Officer, I don't use drugs. I haven't been around anyone using drugs. You're mistaken. Are you calling me a liar? Thompson's voice rises to near shouting. Because that's what it sounds like. Are you calling a police officer a liar? The logical trap is obvious to everyone watching. Say yes, and he's calling an officer a liar. Say no, and he's admitting to drug possession. Either answer gives Thompson an excuse to escalate further. Sir, I'm simply stating the facts. I don't use illegal substances. Thompson pulls out his handcuffs, the metal gleaming in the afternoon sun. Well, we'll just have to test that theory, won't we? Jonathan Hayes, you're under arrest for possession of controlled substances and resisting arrest. Officer, what substances? What resistance? I've been completely compliant with every instruction. Shut your mouth. Thompson grabs Hayes's wrist, yanking it behind his back with unnecessary force. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. The first handcuff clicks into place with metallic finality. Then the second. Hayes stands there, hands shackled behind his back, wearing his father's funeral suit while being treated like a violent criminal. The crowd has grown to over 30 people now. Store owners, customers, teenagers with phones. Everyone can see this is wrong, but no one knows how to stop it safely. Intervening could mean becoming Thompson's next target. On your knees. Thompson places his hand on Hayes's shoulder, applying downward pressure. Now Hayes hesitates for just a moment. Kneeling feels like surrender, like accepting Thompson's version of reality. But resistance could escalate to violence and innocent bystanders might get hurt. Slowly, carefully, Hayes lowers himself to his knees on the cold asphalt. His expensive suit absorbs moisture from the wet pavement. Gravel bites through the fabric, pressing into his skin. The image is devastating. A decorated war veteran in handcuffs, kneeling on a public street while a racist cop towers over him. Phones capture every angle, every moment of degradation. Thompson stands behind the kneeling figure like a conquering general. This is what happens when you people don't know your place. Maybe this will teach you some respect. Pastor Williams can't stay silent anymore. Officer, this man just buried his father. He's shown you nothing but respect. This is completely preacher. I told you to back off. Thompson spins around, hand moving to his taser. You want to join him on the ground because I can arrange that real quick. The pastor raises his hands but doesn't retreat. I'm not interfering. I'm bearing witness. That's my right as an American citizen. Your rights are whatever I say they are right now. Santos receives a call on her radio, but Thompson is too focused on his victim to notice. The dispatcher tries to reach Thompson directly, but he's turned his radio down to avoid distractions from his performance. Hayes kneels in silence, his head bowed, but his spine straight. Even in this degrading position, he maintains the posture of a soldier, his breathing remains controlled, his expression calm despite the humiliation burning in his chest. A news van turns the corner 2 blocks away, drawn by social media alerts about police brutality in progress. The reporter recognizes the intersection from previous stories about community policing initiatives. Thompson basks in his moment of absolute power. He has a successful black man on his knees, helpless and humiliated. This is what he joined the police force for. Not to protect and serve, but to dominate and control. Are you comfortable down there? Thompson circles Hayes like a predator because we're going to be here a while. Got to wait for the drug dogs to confirm what I already know. The lies keep flowing. There are no drug dogs coming. There are no drugs to find. But Thompson has discovered that the truth is optional when you wear a badge and carry a gun. Hayes closes his eyes and thinks about his father's funeral that morning. The honor guard folding the flag with crisp precision. The bugler playing taps. The dignity of a life well lived. That dignity is being tested now in ways his father never could have imagined. But Hayes won't break. He can't break. Too many people are watching and too much depends on how he handles this moment. The news van gets closer. Thompson's radio crackles with urgent traffic he's ignoring. And in Washington, D.C., a Pentagon aide is wondering why General Hayes isn't answering his phone. Change is coming. Thompson just doesn't know it yet. The news van pulls into the parking lot, its satellite dish gleaming. Reporter Sarah Carter steps out, her trained eye recognizing a story in progress. A crowd phone recording. A black man in handcuffs kneeling on asphalt. Thompson basks in his moment of control, unaware his world is about to collapse. He stands over Hayes like a colonial master, chest puffed with authority. Sarah Carter, Channel 12 News. The reporter approaches with her cameraman. Officer, what's happening here? Thompson straightens for the professional cameras. Routine arrest, drug possession, and resisting arrest. Chen studies the kneeling man. Something seems familiar. His posture military bearing. She's covered Pentagon briefings for 3 years. Sir, could you state your name? Hayes lifts his head, voice steady despite his position. General Jonathan Hayes, United States Army. The words hit like thunder. Gasps ripple through witnesses. Santos goes rigid, face draining color. General Hayes from the Pentagon. The Medal of Honor recipient. Carter's voice rises with recognition. Thompson laughs, uncertainty creeping in. General, lady, this is some drug dealer trying to con you. Santos fumbles for Hayes's wallet, hands shaking as she finds his military ID. General Jonathan Hayes, United States Army, Pentagon staff. The ID trembles in her fingers. She's holding credentials of one of America's most decorated officers. Thompson's face contorts with denial. That's fake. These people buy fake IDs all the time. Chen signals her cameraman to keep rolling. General Hayes, you were at the Pentagon yesterday. Yes, ma'am. I was scheduled to fly back tomorrow morning. Thompson's radio crackles urgently. Unit 247. Urgent call from the Pentagon. Priority Alpha respond immediately. Thompson ignores it, too invested in his delusion. I don't care who he claims to be. Santos grabs Thompson's shoulder. Brad, we need to stop this. Do you understand what you've done? The dispatcher tries again. More urgent. Unit 247. Defense Secretary Williams is en route to your location. ETA is 3 minutes. Everyone hears it. The crowd goes silent. Even Thompson can't ignore those words. Defense Secretary Williams doesn't make house calls for drug dealers. Distance rumbles with approaching motorcycles. The distinctive sound of federal security moving at high speed. Chen's phone rings. She answers on speaker. Sarah, this is Pentagon Press Secretary Morrison. Is General Hayes safe? The secretary is en route. Thompson's face cycles through confusion and dawning horror. He's just arrested one of America's most decorated generals for imaginary crimes. No, no, no. Thompson backs away, hands shaking. This can't be right. The rumble grows louder. Black SUVs with government plates around the corner, followed by motorcycle escorts. Federal authority bearing down on a traffic stop gone wrong. Santos moves to Hayes, voice desperate. General, sir, I'm removing these restraints immediately. I am so sorry. Her hands shake, unlocking the handcuffs. Hayes rubs his wrists calmly, dignity intact despite everything. Officer Santos, you tried to intervene. I appreciate that. Thompson stares at the approaching convoy like watching his execution. 3 black SUVs, motorcycle escorts, all for the man he's been treating like a criminal. The lead SUV stops. Car doors slam like gunshots. Secret Service agents emerge, scanning for threats. Then, Defense Secretary James Williams steps out like an avenging angel. Complete silence falls. No traffic noise, no conversations. Even the wind holds its breath. 30 witnesses watch as America's Defense Secretary walks toward a man who was just kneeling in handcuffs. Secretary Williams approaches with measured steps, dress uniform crisp. Despite the urgent journey, the crowd parts, creating a clear path. Thompson stands frozen, watching his career disintegrate. Every racist assumption, Every illegal action, every cruel moment, all captured on camera and witnessed by federal authorities. Hayes stands slowly, brushing gravel from his knees with quiet dignity. His father's funeral suit is stained and wrinkled, but his bearing remains military. Secretary Williams stops 3 feet away. The parking lot holds its breath. Then, in perfect silence, the defense secretary renders a crisp military salute to the man in the wrinkled suit. The moment stretches like eternity. Phones capture history. A cabinet-level official saluting someone just treated as a criminal. The image burns into memory. Dignity, recognizing dignity while injustice crumbles. Thompson's mouth opens and closes like a fish. The man he called boy is receiving honors from the highest levels of government. General Hayes, Secretary Williams speaks clearly for all to hear. On behalf of the President and our nation, I apologize for this treatment. The Secretary steps forward, personally straightening Hayes's jacket with the care of a father. The gesture speaks volumes. Respect flowing upward, authority serving honor. Hayes nods once. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. No apology necessary from you. Thompson realizes every witness, every camera, every recording device has captured his humiliation of an American hero. His career isn't just over. It's about to become a cautionary tale. Santos stands at attention, saluting both men. Other officers arriving with the convoy follow suit. Veterans in the crowd render honors. Even civilians remove their hats. The only person not showing respect is Thompson, who stands alone, abandoned by his own authority, watching justice arrive with federal plates and military honors. Chen whispers into her microphone. This is unprecedented. We're witnessing the defense secretary personally responding to police misconduct against one of our nation's highest-ranking generals. The power has shifted completely. The man who was kneeling is now surrounded by federal protection. The man who held all the authority now faces federal investigation. Justice has arrived wearing dress blues and riding in government vehicles. Police Chief Robert Martinez arrives with squealing tires jumping from his patrol car. His face reflects pure panic, the kind reserved for career-ending disasters unfolding in real time. General Hayes, Mr. Secretary. Martinez's voice cracks, sweat beads on his forehead despite the cool air. I received an emergency call from the mayor. Thompson attempts one desperate play for sympathy. Chief, I was following standard procedure. How was I supposed to know? Shut up, Thompson. The chief's words slice like glass. Don't say another word until you have a lawyer. Secretary Williams maintains his protective stance near Hayes, expression freezing. Chief Martinez, I want a full explanation of how our nation's most decorated general ended up handcuffed on a street. Sir, this is unacceptable. Officer Thompson will face immediate disciplinary action. Martinez turns to Thompson with fury. Bradley Thompson, you're suspended without pay pending federal investigation. Thompson's face crumbles. Chief, please. I've got a family, a mortgage. I didn't know he was really. You didn't know because you didn't want to know. Santos steps forward, voice shaking with rage. I tried telling you multiple times. His military ID was visible. You chose to ignore it. The crowd murmurs approval. Mrs. Patterson pushes forward. Officer Thompson, I tried telling you this young man buried his father today. You threatened to arrest me. Thompson's desperate eyes search for allies, finding none. Every witness saw his behavior. Every camera recorded his cruelty. Even fellow officers distanced themselves. General Hayes, Chief Martinez approaches with reverence. I personally apologize for this inexcusable treatment. This doesn't represent our department's values. Hayes straightens his wrinkled jacket, maintaining dignity despite stains on his father's funeral suit. Chief Martinez, Officer Santos showed good judgment today. She tried de-escalating several times. Santos's eyes filled with tears of relief and shame. General, sir, I should have done more. Should have stopped this. Officer Santos, you were in an impossible position. Your intervention attempts were noted and appreciated. Secretary Williams signals his security detail. 2 federal agents approached Thompson with measured steps. Bradley Thompson. Agent Rodriguez speaks with federal authority. You're under arrest for civil rights violations under color of law. You have the right to remain silent. Handcuffs click onto Thompson's wrists with metallic finality. The same sound that humiliated Hayes now seals Thompson's fate. His legs buckle as reality crashes down. This is insane. Thompson's voice rises to desperate whining. I was doing my job. You can't arrest a police officer for arresting criminals. Agent Rodriguez continues reading. Miranda writes, while Thompson's world disintegrates, anything you say can and will be used against you in court. The crowd watches with grim satisfaction as justice arrives wearing federal badges. Phone cameras capture every moment of Thompson's perp, social media exploding with hashtags. Chen reports live. We're witnessing unprecedented federal intervention in what began as a traffic stop. Officer Thompson now faces federal civil rights charges. Hayes retrieves his father's flag from the ground, carefully folding it despite dirt and damage. The sacred symbol has endured hell like its owner. Secretary Williams notices the flag, expression softening. General, was that from your father's service? Yes, sir. He served 2 tours in Vietnam. The funeral was this morning. Then this desecration makes Thompson's actions even more despicable. The secretary's voice carries institutional fury. No American hero should face this treatment, especially burying their father. Chief Martinez approaches Thompson one final time. Bradley, I'm recommending termination proceedings. You'll never wear a badge in this state again. Thompson's face reflects the soul-crushing realization that 8 years of police work have ended in federal prison time and permanent disgrace. His family will read about his arrest in newspapers. Santos removes Thompson's badge personally, metal gleaming before disappearing into an evidence bag. The symbolic stripping of authority feels appropriate, earned through years of abuse lost in minutes. Chief Hayes speaks quietly, voice carrying true leadership authority. I'd like Officer Santos to know she has my complete confidence. She demonstrated integrity under pressure. The young officer straightens with pride and relief. In Thompson's career wreckage, her attempts at doing right have been recognized by the highest military command. Federal agents escort Thompson toward their vehicle, head down in shame and defeat. The man who demanded respect through fear now faces consequences of his choices. Justice has arrived, swift and decisive. The immediate reckoning is only the beginning. 3 months later, FBI Special Agent Patricia Williams stands before a packed federal courthouse, manila folders thick with evidence tucked under her arm. The morning sun streams through tall windows, illuminating dust motes that dance like tiny witnesses to justice. The investigation into Officer Bradley Thompson has uncovered a pattern of civil rights violations spanning his entire 8-year career, Agent Williams announces to the assembled media. The click of camera shutters sounds like applause. The courtroom overflows with spectators. Hayes sits in the front row wearing his dress blue uniform. Ribbons and medals creating a rainbow of valor across his chest. Beside him, Santos wears her police dress uniform, now sporting sergeant's stripes earned through her courage that October afternoon. Thompson enters in an orange jumpsuit, wrists shackled, a broken man facing the consequences of a lifetime of hatred. His lawyer, a court-appointed public defender, carries the hopeless expression of someone defending the indefensible. Judge Margaret Carter, no relation to the reporter, peers over wire-rimmed glasses with the stern authority of 30 years on the federal bench. Mr. Thompson, you stand accused of violating the civil rights of General Hayes and 23 other victims under color of law. 23 other victims. The number hits the courtroom like a physical blow. Thompson's reign of terror had lasted 8 years, touching dozens of lives, destroying trust between police and community, one traffic stop at a time. Prosecutor David Martinez rises, his voice carrying the weight of federal authority. Your Honor, the evidence will show that Officer Thompson engaged in systematic racial profiling, false arrests, and civil rights violations. The defendant's own body camera footage provides irrefutable proof. The prosecution's case unfolds like a masterclass in institutional racism. Video after video shows Thompson targeting minority drivers, planting evidence, fabricating charges. The Hay incident was simply the most visible eruption of years of hidden brutality. Mrs. Patricia Johnson takes the witness stand first, her hands trembling as she recounts her encounter with Thompson 2 years earlier. He pulled me over for driving while black, searched my car without permission, made me stand in the rain for an hour while he ran my license 20 times. Her voice breaks. My granddaughter was in the back seat crying, asking why the police officer was being mean to Grandma. I didn't have an answer. One by one, Thompson's victims tell their stories. A college student missed his final exam while Thompson detained him for 6 hours on false drug charges. A nurse arriving at the hospital for emergency surgery was delayed by Thompson's routine traffic stop that lasted 3 hours. Each testimony builds a mountain of evidence, but the emotional weight comes from seeing Thompson's victims reclaim their dignity in federal court. They speak truth to power while their tormentor sits silently, his lawyer unable to mount any meaningful defense. CNN legal analyst Janet Cooper provides commentary during court breaks. This case represents a watershed moment in police accountability. Federal prosecution of local officers sends a clear message that civil rights violations will face serious consequences. Hayes takes the witness stand on day 3. His testimony delivered with the precision of a military briefing. Officer Thompson's actions violated every principle of justice and human dignity, but more importantly, they violated the oath he swore to protect and serve all citizens equally. Defense attorney Mark Stevens attempts cross-examination, but Hayes's responses are unshakable. General, isn't it possible Officer Thompson simply made a mistake in judgment? Counselor, calling someone boy, planting evidence, and forcing a person to kneel in handcuffs isn't a mistake in judgment. It's a deliberate choice to abuse power and dehumanize another human being. The courtroom gallery erupts in quiet applause before Judge Carter restores order with her gavel. Thompson's former colleagues testify against him with obvious reluctance. Officer Rodriguez admits he witnessed Thompson plant drugs during a 2019 traffic stop, but remained silent out of fear. The blue wall of silence protects bad cops at the expense of good policing. Santos provides the most damaging testimony, her voice steady despite the emotional weight. I watched Officer Thompson ignore General Hayes's military credentials, dismiss his respectful compliance, and escalate a routine traffic stop into federal civil rights violations. His actions were deliberate, calculated, and racially motivated. Expert witness Drive, Sarah Williams, a criminology professor, explains the psychology of police bias. Officer Thompson's pattern shows classic symptoms of racial animus combined with authority addiction. He specifically targeted successful minorities who challenged his worldview. The prosecution introduces Thompson's social media posts as evidence: racist memes, inflammatory comments about Black Lives Matter, Confederate flag imagery. His digital footprint reveals the mind of a man consumed by racial hatred. International media covers the trial extensively. BBC correspondent James Mitchell reports, the Thompson case has become a symbol of American police reform efforts. Federal prosecution of civil rights violations sends ripples throughout law enforcement communities nationwide. Thompson's family sits in the back row, his ex-wife and children wearing sunglasses to hide their shame. His marriage collapsed within weeks of his arrest, his children changing their last name to escape the stigma. During closing arguments, Prosecutor Martinez delivers a speech that will be quoted in law schools for decades. Officer Thompson had multiple opportunities to choose dignity over degradation, respect over racism, service over self-interest. He chose hatred every single time. Defense attorney Stevens makes a half-hearted plea for mercy. My client made serious errors in judgment, but he doesn't deserve to have his life destroyed. The argument falls flat in a courtroom filled with victims whose lives Thompson had already destroyed. The jury deliberates for less than 4 hours, barely enough time to review the overwhelming evidence. When they return, for woman Angela Davis reads the verdict with clear conviction. On all counts of civil rights violations under color of law, we find the defendant guilty. Thompson's legs buckle. His lawyer catches him as the weight of federal conviction crashes down. Guilty on 17 felony counts, facing decades in federal prison. Judge Carter's sentencing hearing occurs 2 weeks later. She addresses Thompson directly. Your actions represent everything wrong with policing in America. You wore a badge meant to protect and serve, but used it to intimidate and oppress. The court sentences you to 12 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years supervised probation. You are permanently banned from any law enforcement position and forfeit all pension benefits. 12 years. The number echoes through the courtroom like a bell tolling. Thompson will be 51 when he's released, assuming he survives federal prison. Outside the courthouse, Hayes addresses the media with characteristic grace. Today's verdict sends a clear message that civil rights violations will face serious consequences. But our work isn't finished until every American can trust that law enforcement serves all citizens equally. The civil lawsuit settlement comes 1 month later. $3.2 million for Hayes plus $8.7 million in punitive damages against the police department. The money matters less than the president. Police departments nationwide will think twice before tolerating officers like Thompson. Thompson begins serving his sentence at Federal Correctional Institution Coleman in Florida. No special protection, no preferential treatment, just 12 years to contemplate the hatred that destroyed his life and hurt so many others. Justice has been served, comprehensive and complete. 1 year later, General Hayes stands before a gleaming community center in Richmond. Its bronze nameplate reading Colonel James Hayes Memorial, Center for Justice and Dignity. The building rises from the same block where his father grew up, transforming a neighborhood once marked by struggle into a beacon of hope. Inside, 30 young men and women police recruits, military cadets, and community leaders listen as Hayes shares the lesson that changed everything. Afternoon sunlight streams through tall windows, illuminating faces, eager to understand how dignity defeats hatred. My father taught me that true strength isn't the power to dominate others. Hayes speaks quietly, his voice carrying the authority earned through fire. It's the power to lift others up, even when they're trying to tear you down. The recruits hang on every word. These future officers represent the new generation. Diverse, educated, committed to serving all citizens equally. The Hay incident has become required study in police minds nationwide. A cautionary tale with real consequences. Officer Santos, now Sergeant Santos, leads the Richmond Police Department's Community Relations Division. Her courage that October afternoon earned promotion and respect, proving that doing right matters more than staying silent. She nods as Hayes continues his presentation. When Officer Thompson forced me to my knees, I had a choice, Hayes explains, his hands steady as they were that day. I could respond with anger, with hatred, with the same poison that infected him. Or I could choose dignity. The Memorial Center houses Thompson's former victims, now advocates for police reform. Mrs. Johnson runs conflict resolution workshops. The college student who missed his exam teaches young people about their rights. Each person transformed their pain into purpose. Meanwhile, 847 miles away in Federal Correctional Institution Coleman, Bradley Thompson sits in his cell during mandatory education hours. The irony isn't lost. He's studying civil rights history, learning about the very freedoms he violated for 8 years. Thompson's cellmate, a soft-spoken man serving time for tax evasion, often reads aloud from news articles about police reform. Says here, Richmond's crime rate dropped 23% since they implemented the Hayes Protocol. He mentions casually, the Hayes Protocol comprehensive police reforms triggered by that October afternoon. Body cameras are mandatory, bias training required, citizen review boards empowered, federal oversight for departments with civil rights violations. Real change born from one man's dignity under pressure. Thompson's ex-wife remarried last spring. His children, now bearing their stepfather's name, excel in school and speak about justice in their social studies classes. They found peace in distance from their father's legacy of hatred. Back in Richmond, Hayes addresses the final question from a young recruit. General, how do you forgive someone who treated you that way? Hayes pauses, choosing his words carefully. I didn't forgive Officer Thompson for his sake. I forgave him for mine. Carrying hatred only poisons the person carrying it. My father didn't raise me to be poisoned by other people's sickness. The room falls silent, absorbing wisdom earned through suffering. These future officers understand they're receiving more than training. They're inheriting a responsibility to heal wounds Thompson's generation inflicted. Chen, the reporter who broke the story, has won 3 journalism awards for her coverage. Her documentary, The General's Grace, airs on PBS monthly, reaching millions with its message about dignity under fire. The defense secretary visits Hayes quarterly. Their friendship forged in that parking lot when federal authority protected constitutional rights. Their collaboration has strengthened military-civilian relations and improved diversity programs across all service branches. Hayes's memoir, Dignity Under Fire, topped bestseller lists for 16 weeks. All proceeds fund scholarships for minority students pursuing law enforcement and military careers. The book's final chapter asks readers a simple question. What will you do when your moment comes? That question resonates now as Hayes concludes his presentation. Every day in small ways and large, we choose between dignity and degradation. We choose between service and self-interest. We choose between building bridges and building walls. The young faces before him represent hope. A generation committed to healing rather than hurting, protecting rather than oppressing, serving rather than dominating. Share this story if you believe justice should protect everyone equally. Hayes addresses the camera directly, his message reaching beyond the Memorial Center to millions watching online. Subscribe if you believe dignity can defeat hatred. Comment below about the time you chose courage over comfort. His final words carry the weight of experience. In a world where power can corrupt and prejudice can blind, the question isn't whether injustice will happen again. It will. The question is whether you'll be part of the problem or part of the solution. Because somewhere tonight, another person is driving home from honoring a fallen hero and another person is putting on a badge. Your choice at that moment to record injustice, report it, intervene safely, or simply bear witness matters more than you know. What will your choice say about the America we're building together? The Memorial Center stands as proof that dignity can triumph over hatred, that justice delayed is not justice denied, and that sometimes the strongest response to violence is an unshakable commitment to human worth. The story ends, but the choice continues every day for everyone forever.